Hey guys, how you going? Melissa here from Connected and Confident, the podcast and the YouTube channel. I am shooting today from the very spectacular Warrenora River, which is a beautiful, beautiful part of Sydney, and it's actually where I raise my children on this river, and the school's just up there. It's a really special place in my heart, and I just sort of thought I really wanted to shoot this episode outdoors because it's such a special thing of what I'm going to be talking about, and it's really personal, and I think the whole point of connection is just what I talk a lot about, and this is a story about how I connected to myself to achieve something really radical in my life, a really radical success for me, and that it was only through being deeply connected to myself that I was able to achieve that and pull it off. And the whole point of connection for me is definitely being outdoors, being near the water, being connected to where I feel my family, and this is where I get a lot of my source energy from. So I'm going to be talking to you about, I've already released the 3-part series on my body sculpting competition that I did last October in 2022, and how empowering that was for me, and challenging and difficult, but wonderful and rewarding. And so what I wanted to do was actually talk about it and bring it back to the context of marketing and branding and business, because that's the world I operate in, and that's, what this whole podcast is all about, is the mix between the personal and the professional. So here goes. I'm going to give you, I don't even know how many tips there are, but I'm just going to give you a whole lot of tips and correlate them back between what I learned from my bodybuilding experience and the 2 years of work that I had to put into that to get to that point where I could get up on a stage in a sparkly bikini and show it all off. So here goes. Oh, you do this in video well.
Oh.
Yeah. Except our sound's connected.
Have to learn that.
I know. Okay, so the very, very, very first tip. It's kind of obvious, but it still needs to be said, because I can't tell you how many times people start something in life without a plan. If you know the outcome that you want to get, the best success you're ever going to have at achieving that outcome is having a plan on how you're going to get there. Because the beautiful thing about body sculpting, and this goes for everything in our business, and that's why I wanted to bring this up. You might have a goal of, I want to turn over $1 million next year. But if you're only turning over $500,000 this year, and just do the numbers, whatever the numbers are correlating to you, how do you really realistically think you're going to double your output and get a better delivery on that if you don't have a plan on how you're going to do that? Well, the same thing goes exactly for the bodybuilding world. Like, I had a plan. I was 49 and I knew I wanted to do something amazing for my 50th year. I was really in a weird place. I was in between relationships. I was sort of single and in relationships. And I just knew that I really needed to do something for me and have a focus for me. And I'd just come out of a very, very controlling, let's face it, narcissistic relationship. And I was never allowed to do anything there, and I'd really let my fitness go. So I thought, what can I do that's just for me that I was never allowed to do before? And I'm embarrassed to even say those words, but it's the truth. I was never allowed to do things before that weren't for, if it wasn't for the two of us, if I did something solo for myself, it was not good, had very bad repercussions. So thankfully I'm out of that situation, and now I just do things for myself, which is wonderful. So I thought, I'll run a marathon. And because I did a half marathon a few years before that, and after my husband Steve had died, and I'd been training, and same thing there, I had an action plan with that to do the half marathon. Just didn't rock up and run a half marathon. I couldn't even run a kilometre 4 months before that. But with 4 months of solid training, and I have to say, he died in the April. I started the training in the February, the race was in the May, and Steve died in the April. And I still managed, with all the training that I had done, and then just picking up and doing a little bit of training at the end after a month of just kind of recovering, I was able to run that half marathon. So I thought, right, I'm going to run a marathon. Going to just do the same thing. It's probably going to take me 6 months to get ready for that. And I actually picked in Europe, I can't remember, I think it was Prague or somewhere really fancy like that. I was like, I'm going to go to Prague and run a marathon. I was thinking that'll be the coolest thing ever for my 50th birthday. Go to Prague, run the marathon, then hang out a bit in Europe, then come home. Then that's right. I ran up to about, I think I did a 6K run. I did like 2Ks, 3Ks, 4Ks, 6Ks, and I just like, I'm not pulling up well after these runs. I don't know how I'm going to do 42Ks. So I abandoned that mission. And then also we had this nasty little thing called COVID came along anyway. And then I just on a whim, a girlfriend of mine who I'd met once before, but she was like a girlfriend on Facebook, so that makes us tight as, doesn't it? She was competing in a body sculpting competition and she was amazing. I just loved to see the transformation on what she did. And I thought my whole life is about a transformation really after really reinventing myself. I was turning 50. And so many I know of you guys that are watching this are in the same boat. We're in the middle of our life. Like, it's not over. We're only 50. Whether you're 40, 45, 50, 60, we're really in the middle of our life. We're probably all going to live till we're 100. So, I really wanted to set some goals and some challenges. My kids were all grown up. Really wanted something personally for me. And I thought, this is what it's going to be. I'm going to do this body sculpting competition. It's going to be very symbolic, the transformation. And I need an action plan on how to get there. So I did the intelligent thing, which is my next tip, is that I don't know how to get myself to that point. And if I was my son, Dane, he's amazing. He YouTubes everything and researches everything, and he probably could get himself to that. I thought, I'm just going to do the next best thing. I'm going to get a coach, because what do you do in business if you need to learn something that you don't know how to do? You get a coach, you get a business coach, you get a marketing coach, you get a finance coach, you get a confidence coach. Whatever it is that you need to learn how to do, you get a coach, because they know how to do it. They've done it before and they've had success at it before. So that's the business analogy here if you missed it. So I got myself a really amazing coach. Her name is Emma Bowman. She's in Adelaide. I live in Sydney. But that's who was my girlfriend Lena. That was her coach. And I thought, well, and if there's one thing you're going to learn about me when you watch these podcasts is I go very much with gut. I go very much with feeling. I just knew Emma would be perfect for me, and I didn't have to meet her and sit opposite her in a gym to know that she was going to be brilliant. So we did it all online, and I also got to learn about myself, just how dedicated I am. When I say that I'm going to do something, I really kept the promise to myself that I was going to do this. So if somebody has expertise in an area that you don't have expertise in them, engage with them. You don't need to be face-to-face with them. Online is fine. And then you just have to keep the promise to yourself, which is what I talked about, where I really got to meet myself and understand that when I make a promise to myself, it's really important that I keep it. What was interesting, I had a lot of tests from the universe, and this is going to happen to you in your business too. Like, you'll set yourself a goal of what you want to achieve with your business. Going back to that, do you want to turn over double what you've been turning over in the past? And then you create the action plan, you get the coach to help you. But you need to do the work, and you need to show up consistently to make sure that that bloody well happens. So I met with Emma. She explained everything to me about what it was going to be like. And at that point in time, we just set the 1 year goal. So I'd met with her like in the early December. So I was going to be competing in the October, hoping that would be enough time to achieve the goals that I'd set out to achieve. And what I loved about Em is that she said to me, right, we will check in weekly. So I checked in with her weekly, just via FaceTime, and we would have like a 20-minute chat. She set my schedule for me beautifully for all of the exercises that I had to do, and I would send her videos and show her updates on just make sure I had good form. And she found out what I had in my home gym, because I insisted on only doing it at training from a home gym at that point in time, because I had so much self-limiting beliefs about myself in a real gym. And so she worked with me, which was really fantastic. And that's what a coach should do with you in your business too, is work with you around your parameters and what you can handle, and get to know you and not just make you fit their mold. Like, Em was great. She really fitted my mold. And this is what I loved about what she did. She made it so easy to succeed, because she gave me the diet that I had to follow. But again, she asked me, how do you go, Melissa? Are you a creative eater? No. Or can you eat the same thing every day? I'm one of those people that can eat the same thing every day. But the beautiful thing is she asked me again, what am I? So she set it, I was never going to fail, because she set it up and created the schedule and the action plan for me. And what I wanted to make this point about was that we had goals every month of how I was tracking. So every day I would weigh myself and put it into the app, and it would be measured. Every week I would talk to her. Then every month I would take photos of myself in a bikini and send them to her, so we could see where I was at, and she could like up the calories, down the calories. It was always upping the calories, because the whole point with body sculpting is that women particularly women, but men too probably, but particularly women, we have been starving ourselves for so long that we do not eat enough calories for our body to function properly. But because our metabolism is so stunted because of this, that we put on weight if we eat the right amount of calories. So we have to be doing things like lifting weights to be able to counteract that. But that's kind of got nothing to do with the business. But this is what I mean. I tell you this because that's what it is all about when you're dealing with an expert in her field, and she knows all this stuff. She knows where I was going to get tripped up. She knows about the point where I'm going to start to get bored and need a bit of a change in my diet. She knows where I start to get a bit bored with the exercises and make a change in that. So we have all these we have the big, hairy, audacious goal. We've got these monthly goals where when I hit them, I could give myself a little reward or a little a little treat, which would be a cheat couple of meals, maybe for a weekend or something. Could do it. And it was just, I felt like all the success was going to be on my side because I had a team player with me that really was working with me and understanding me, but I was still doing all the hard work. And this is exactly what I want to say to you about your business, is that when you do work with a coach or somebody, that they are personal enough with you, that they customize the program for you and work with you with your parameters, help you with your mindset and your confidence, because Emma was constantly working on that stuff with me and was constantly inspiring. So she's a great match for me with my values. And that we would set these little mini goals along the way. So I felt like I was being rewarded, which, look, to be honest, just watching my body shape change, that's all the reward that I needed. And that would be the same for you in your business. If one of your goals is a revenue goal, if you see that revenue going up, well, then that's how you can measure your success. If one of your goals is actually about just getting more people into your list or getting more interaction, with whatever content creation you're putting out there, whatever it is, you may have your goals that you can measure against, so you know that you're tracking well, so that you are actually going to get to your end game. And I think that's where a lot of people go so wrong with their coaching, is that there's no outcome at the end that you're working towards. And so you're just paying all this money to a coach, and it's not actually, they might think they're having whopping success with you, but it's not success in your eyes. So it's so important that you're all on the same page and that you're constantly talking with each other and you have that really great communication and that great rapport with each other. So Emma has a motto, and I love to borrow her motto and share it with you now. It's dedication, determination and discipline. And she actually gave me, if you watch the other videos beforehand, she gave me a beautiful little triangle necklace which represents each point. So, the dedication is you being dedicated to the task at hand, whatever the activity steps are that you have to do, being dedicated to that. No one else can do it but you in your business moving forward, or whatever it is that you set your goal to be. You have to be dedicated to it. You can't just pay for a coach and expect it to happen. Determination, well, it's the same kind of thing. It's just about you getting the best result by putting in the amount of work that you need to put in. Now, if you're happy with a 50% result, put in the 50% dedication to the job. It's up to you, really, how much you benefit from the work that you're doing and the coaching you're getting and the training that you're doing. It all comes down to you, and that's your discipline. How disciplined are you? And these are areas, I think, that if you need to work on these areas alone, and this is something that I actually provide with my marketing coaching and my branding and my content creation coaching, I know that people will fall off the rails and they'll think that it's a discipline or a dedication problem, but it's actually not. It's a self-belief problem. And this really came to play with me in the later stages of my body sculpting competition, that there were so many challenges thrown at me along the way. Like when I broke my wrist, it could have been a real moment where I broke my wrist literally just right before I should have been competing in the first year, but I was locked out of doing that anyway because of COVID. And I was with seeing a guy at the time, and I wasn't training as hard as I should have been, so my dedication was a bit slack because my discipline was slack. But the whole point of that, they're the surface level emotions. To be really honest, what was slack was that this is really personal, but I lose myself in a relationship, and I tend to give so much of myself that I will go along with the flow of what my partner's doing, as long as it's healthy and fun. And it was very healthy and very fun. But it wasn't good for me. I lost sight of my goals. So it's really important to understand. And that comes from, a codependence place where I lose myself in relationships and I really, really, really wanted to achieve this goal, but I would put myself second, third, fourth, fifth, rather than put myself first. So that was one of the massive things that I learnt along this 2-year journey with my body sculpting. And the same thing goes with your business. There will be things that get in the way of what you're doing, and you will say, oh, I'm too busy. Oh, I'm too shy. I'm not confident enough on camera. There'll be a million reasons. The too busy is, or under-resourced, they're my favourite ones, or I don't have the budget for it. But all of these things, there's a way around it. It always is. And yet people will sit on that surface level excuse and then just, oh, well, that's that. That's how it is. What I challenge you is go deeper. And this is what the work I do with clients around their marketing, their branding, because it's really confronting when I get people to make a video or have their own podcast or create content of a personal nature. So we have to go back to the core thing of what's going on. And for me, in that instance, it was that, well, I didn't believe that I was important enough over my partner to prioritize myself. That's big. You might have a really big thing like that too. It could be in your business is that you don't believe, back to that example, if your goal is I want to double my turnover in X amount of years, maybe the reason why you have never been able to do that is not because you don't know how to do it. It's because you actually don't believe that you're worthy of it. And this comes back to weird-ass childhood stuff, let me tell you. Our personalities are formed from the age of 0 to 7. I've talked about this a lot before. And if you I grew up in a farming economy. So I knew all about bank overdrafts, and I knew all about damage from floods and droughts and hailstorms and locust storms, and witnessed all of that before the age of 7, and had a very, very good understanding of the feeling of lack, and then payday, and then there's all this money, and then the overdraft gets paid off, and then there's lack again until the next big payday. So I really have this approach with my own finances because that's how I grew up. That's what I understood from a farming community, and have to do a lot of work on myself. So there's a whole lot of head trash that comes up when you challenge yourself, and body sculpting was one of the biggest challenges for me, which really got me to actually learn so much about myself and then apply this to business and marketing, exactly like what I'm sharing with you guys now, because the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. So my next tip is for you in your business, and this is what I found in my body sculpting. Repetition, repetition, repetition. And this is where the discipline and the dedication always comes in. You cannot build an amazing physique in the body sculpting world that's going to really get a lot of, really, really be as good as you can be if you turn up to the gym in a half-assed fashion, if you only turn up 50% of the time. It's all about the repetitiveness. You have to turn up for all of the training sessions that your coach wants you to do. So in the early days, I had 5 out of 7 training sessions a week. And then on the off day, I would do a long bushwalk. And you have to turn up for that. The repetition, I would have to eat the food, all the macros, all the nutrients, all the amount of protein, drink the amount of water, not drink alcohol. I drank alcohol, but I really tried to minimize it a lot. Definitely in my second year of training, I was very good at that. My first year of training, not so good. And that's where I got to learn about myself when I wasn't prioritizing myself. But it's the repetition that will get you there. And it's also about doing the fun things first. So if you've got a job in your business that you need to do. For me, it's chasing up money, people that owe me money. That is a really uncomfortable job for me, and I think it comes from my whole scarcity thing. I'm so used to the scarcity. I'm so used to this with the finances, with what I shared with you before, that I don't have that dedication. I've got business owner friends that are appalled when somebody is late paying their invoice, and they're on that phone and they're demanding that money, and they're so self-righteous, and I don't even know if that's the right word. Like it's just deserving. It's worthy, isn't it? It's not self-righteous. It's just what's owing to them. So they chase it. And, people like me with my mindset don't. And that's not good for our businesses. So how could I expect to up my turnover in my business or increase or hire more staff if my cash flow is inconsistent? Same goes for your business. Whatever it is that your self-limiting belief is and the repetition, where are you not doing these repetitive steps? Where are you not doing the hard things first in your day that's going to get the results that you need to get the output that you want to get, or to get that outcome? The other thing is realize that when you set a goal, most of the times, particularly in your business, it's not glamorous, is it? It's 5% glamour, which is at the end when you can applaud yourself and you've won that award, or you bought that office building, or you got that client, you turn over that revenue, you can proudly brag about it with your accountant. But It's the other 90%, 95% of grunt work that's really important that you must do. You just must do it with the repetition. So don't be a person that is into, you know, the glitz and the glamour of achieving a goal and then losing interest. This is where the action plan comes in. This is where having the short little rewards every month comes in. If you find that you're a person that needs to be validated by rewards, then set yourself up for success to make sure that you do have them in there, because 95% of what you're doing, just like in bodybuilding, is pure grunt work, and nobody's watching and nobody really cares if you do it or not. Like, Emma was very supportive and she was amazing to work with, but at the end of the day, she didn't care if I did it or not, really. Like, of course she can. She did it, but her life didn't depend on it. Like, I know her. She is an incredible go-getter, and she sets out. Like, she's just, last year she got her pro card. She's 40, I think she was 41. Incredibly difficult thing to do in a competition with women that, you know, are barely even 30, and she's had 3 children, and she did it. Her dedication, her drive is amazing. Personally, my goals aren't to get a pro card. I don't work hard enough for that, but I know what my goals are. My goal was to get on that stage and to be proud and really happy and confident in the job that I had done, and know that I'd done enough to be there and deserve that place on the stage. That's all I'm actually going for. And my goal was to grow as a human being, you know, not to become a pro. So, you know, my output would be very different with my training if I wanted to be a pro. You know, I have other bigger goals for myself. So it's just really about knowing yourself too, and setting those goals in your business about what you want to be. And make sure the goals are your goals, what you want. That's, I don't even have that in my notes, but that's really important. Sometimes we're chasing a goal in our business because our accountant set the goal. You know, really get to know yourself. And this is the whole connection piece. What I work with clients all the time, I am an NLP practitioner, and I also do a form of kinesiology where I can actually help you uncover what's your purpose, what lights your fire. Like, you should have a goal in your business that lights your fire and makes you really happy. And sometimes increasing revenue is not what makes people really happy, because that means they have to get more staff and more stress and more clients, and it's more demanding and it's less time with their family. Or maybe it's the exact opposite. I don't know, but just make sure your goal is your goal and not somebody else's goal. And the exact thing was with me with the body sculpting. There's no point in me working with Emma if her goal for me was to be a pro. Like, we set my goal right at the beginning, and I knew what I wanted to be, and I was really clear about it. And she set the program to suit my life, to suit my goal. And you should do exactly the same thing with your business and your marketing. Which is a beautiful lead into my next point. You should be surrounded by people that support you and lift you up and build you up and are really on board with what you're doing, no matter what it is that what you're doing. Now, with body sculpting, Em actually warned me. She said it can become a very lonely sport. People around you don't understand what you're doing, particularly when you're going out and they're all drinking and having a wild time, and you're there counting your calories and watching your food and not overindulging in anything, and being really conscious that you need to be at the gym tomorrow morning to do a training session. So in my first year that I was training, I let myself down a lot in that department. Like I said, I had a partner that I was partying with a lot and having a lot of fun with, and I was nowhere near as dedicated to my training as what I should have been, what I wanted to be, because I was betraying myself. And it wasn't his fault. I was betraying myself by giving in so easily to fun rather than just getting a really nice balance in my life. So I also had an experience last year where I was surrounded by a handful of people that were not supportive people to me and my self-esteem, and they were very, very secretive behind the scenes and doing stuff that just didn't feel right to me and was playing havoc with my self-confidence. So it was a really good opportunity for me to work harder at building myself up and being my own hero and my own champion, and not worrying what they said or felt or thought, because there was a little bit of self-sabotage going on as well. So this could easily happen with you, with your business. People could be very unsupportive to you, and you can't let that get in your way. You can't let that affect your end game. And so on that, you just have to accept that some people are not going to enjoy your journey. They're not going to be there with you. They're not going to support you, and they're not going to say things to lift you up. And I really dealt with that really hard. If anybody is watching this, has watched my other episodes, maybe go along and check out the first ones, the 3 weeks leading up to competition, and then the peak week. I was a bit of a mess in some of the video, but you know, the guy I was seeing at the time while I was doing the competition struggled big time with watching me kind of waste away, which is essentially what's happening. You've got to be realistic. Like, you go through an 18-week period where things get really tough and you are depleting your body so you can see your muscle and you can get the best representation of what is underneath all there, but you need to get rid of a ton of body fat. And it was really difficult for him to watch that happen on me. Because he cared a lot about me too, and I was going through some pretty big emotional, it's tough. I go through brain fog, that's the easy bit, but going through the emotional side of it, I'm pretty good at regulating my emotions, but I was super hormonal and super affected, and it was tough to witness for the people that love you. So the same thing might go for you in your business. I have friends that have gone through incredibly tough times when they were growing their business and pumping every cent their business made back into their business, and they lived so frugally, and they lived hand to mouth for some of them like a couple of years while they were trying to grow that business and take that risk on themselves, and it was difficult. It was hard, when if you have a side hustle and you're trying to cross over from having a job to having your own business, there's going to be a real period of discomfort, and you'll have people in your life that will say, Go back and just get a job. This is just too hard. I can't stand watching you spend all your money like this. You're not making the same amount of money. I don't know why you're doing this. This is a crazy idea. Why are you investing in all of that equipment? Why did you give up that great job, that stability? If that's what their belief is, because you know the bigger picture, you know the end game, you have belief in yourself. These people don't have the same belief, so maybe people won't stick around the ride for you while you are achieving your business goals. And that's okay. Sometimes that's just how life rolls. But do you minimize yourself and stop being the best to your ability of who you are because you want to make somebody else happy, or do you make you happy? And that's the big question. And this was a really big one for me, massive actually. Get comfortable being bloody uncomfortable. And here's a really big thing that you need to learn with your business if you want to have any kind of improvements in it and do something new. You have to really get comfortable being uncomfortable. Sometimes when you learn a new thing, it is bloody uncomfortable doing it. You might be asked to do hard things. You might be asked to get way out of your comfort zone, but that's necessary for you to get to the next level. Well, the same thing happened to me with my fitness level, and the same thing happened when it came to lifting weights. I had to lift heavier, I had to push myself. I had to, after I broke my wrist and we came out of COVID and I recovered, and I had that moment where I could have just stopped and quit. And I didn't. I thought, no. It was actually at the beginning of 2022, and I competed in October, and I was like, nah, I'm coming back strong. I'm really coming back strong. And I did, and I said to Em, all right, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do this properly now. So I was super uncomfortable going to the gym. And now when I look back, I don't know why, but I had built up a story in my head about what a gym is like. But really get comfortable being uncomfortable and stepping outside of your comfort zone, because the way your comfort zone's always been explained to me, if you live within your comfort zone all the time, and so many people want to, here's your comfort zone, here it is, and then you're in the center of that. That's really comfortable. If you just stay in there and don't challenge yourself, your comfort zone will just shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. Whereas if you keep going outside of your comfort zone just expands and expands and expands. So something that would have been super uncomfortable for you in the moment, in 3 months' time, could be just your everyday practice. So get super comfortable being a little bit out of your comfort zone. You need to get really excited about learning new stuff. You really have to not think that you know everything. There's so many people that are uncoachable because they are trapped in their ego. And this can happen in bodybuilding, this can happen in anything where you think you know better. Emma had me really eating a lot of carbs. And I was like, Em, I really don't think I can eat these carbs. And I have had a lifetime of training that carbs are bad. And she's just like, this is one of those instances, Melissa, where you need to trust the process. Another one of these instances where I needed just to learn and get a little bit more educated. And she explained to me why carbohydrates are a massive part of muscle building. And I was eating so much more food than I'd ever eaten in my life. And the scales were dropping. So obviously my weight was dropping, but then it started increasing when you build, because you have to build in a... You can't build muscle when you're in a deficit. So right now I'm 10 kilos up on my weight when I competed, and it can really mess with you when you're body sculpting. So sometimes the numbers do lie. So I'm 10 kilos heavier, but if I was this weight 5 years ago, I would have looked completely different because I was softer and I wasn't doing weights. I did not have anywhere near the same sort of muscle tone underneath my skin. It would have been a lot flabbier. So I'll just say it, I'm 62 kilos, I would say 61 kilos now. 61 kilos used to be like I'm starting to need to lose weight. 61 kilos now is a really good comfy weight for me to be, and a really strong weight. Whereas when I'm 52 kilos, which is what I am when I compete, like I'm emaciated, I'm tiny. And if I get fixated on that number and want to keep chasing that number, it's really unhealthy. So you need to really understand what the numbers mean. And this would be the correlation back to your business. When you're trying to do any kind of self-improvement in your business, is when you're taking the measurements, relate them back to what the real meaning. So best example of this actually is profit over revenue. When we said you wanted to be able to turn over $1 million, if you've been turning over $500,000, you want to go up to $1 million or whatever your number is, it doesn't matter if your profit is less and you're turning over more, but you had to employ 8 more people and therefore your profit is less and your income is less. Well, then what is the point? Maybe the sweet spot, and I know this happens a lot with growth in business, is that there's a funny point when you hire X amount of people that it's not a comfortable place to say. You need to keep surging forward and get more people, because that's actually when the numbers actually work out. So you just really need to learn new stuff and be really across your numbers and really understand your measurement system of what you're doing to make sure that you are getting the success that you set out to get, and that it's not all about the vanity. It actually is real numbers. So people get really excited about reach when they're doing their marketing, their social media. And I've got 10,000 followers on Instagram. But who cares if only 20 of them ever really respond or like anything? I'd rather have 1,000 people that are into me on Instagram, but I have the same amount or if not greater interaction with people and that they actually buy from me. Numbers can lie to you, just the same in bodybuilding. Numbers can lie to you in your business too. So you really need to understand the measurement system and be honest with yourself about what's happening. This next tip is so important. It's all about visualizing. Does anybody who's listening to this right now love Dr. Joe Dispenza? He is a bloody legend, and he talks all the time about visualizing. If you are just living and existing in the moment as yourself right now, you're actually the best representation of your past self, from all of your past experiences and past beliefs, and all the things that you have created in your mind have come from your past. Makes total sense. If you actually want to change something, so for me, I wanted to become a bodybuilder, and for you, whatever your business thing is, that your goal is that you want to change in your business or your personal life, whatever it is, you won't be able to change that. That is my favorite saying. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So you need to change. So this is what we talked about, the dedication, the discipline, all of the things, taking the steps, getting the coaching, having the action plan, all of that comes into play. But the best way to actually make this really happen is changing your belief system up here and in here too. So visualizing that can be one of the best ways to put yourself to get your future life and bring it into your life that you're living now. And the same be, do, have model. So who do you need to be right now to get, and all the actions that you need to do to have what you really want to have? So using the analogy with your business, if you wanted to double your database, for instance, say you have 2,000 people in your database, and by the end of the year you want to have 5,000 people, and you plan on doing that in a way, you plan on having a podcast and putting out more podcast episodes and being more active on your social media channels, and being a guest on other people's podcasts, and having a call to action so people can sign up, and then you'll get more people into your database. Great goal, great action steps. So you've got the do, that's all the activity steps that you need to do, but you still have to do the be. Who do you need to be to get that and to do that and to feel like you're worthy of that? So the best way to be something is to visualize yourself in the future and put that into your brain now, because your brain, as clever as you are, you're not that clever, because your brain is fooled into thinking that you've actually achieved that before and you've had success with that before. So if you want to do anything in your life and have success, you need to spend some time every morning or every evening, or preferably even both, and visualize yourself doing that activity, feeling comfortable, feeling the emotions around it, feeling really happy that you've got that 5,000 people now in your database, and how does it feel to be more of a leader in your industry and have that kind of impact and that social pull, and have more revenue and have more clients coming to you and people requesting to be on your podcast and you being requested to be on their podcast. How does that feel? So it's really important that you visualize each activity step, because I can guarantee to you, I had a lot of self-limiting beliefs about getting on that stage in a sparkly bikini. Oh my God, I can't tell you. Like, I'm a 51-year-old woman. I have damage to my body from having children, like most women. And my body changed after having kids. I've gone through menopause. My body's different. And it was challenging. Those bikinis are tiny. And I'll put an image up there now so you can see what I mean. To get up on a stage and confidently, at my age, knowing that I'm possibly the oldest woman on that stage, and I was definitely one of the oldest women. Actually, when I competed, I know I was one of the oldest. I was the only person in my category, but there were other 50-year-olds there, and they were all very early 50s. It takes a lot of confidence and self-belief to do that, and that only came from me being and talking it up and telling people that I was a bodybuilder, believing I was, visualizing myself on that stage and putting myself in the shoes, those sparkly stilettos, putting myself in those shoes in my mind on that stage, believing I had a place to be there, trusting my coach, trusting the process, doing all the activity steps that I needed to do to get there consistently in the last year of my training, but over 2 years, but consistently over the last year. So I deserved to be there, but felt that I deserved to be there and that I wasn't an imposter, because imposter syndrome is going to stop you up every time. So it was a really wonderful experience. I can't tell you how good it is to do an experience like this, and you just choose whatever your experience is going to be. It doesn't have to be bodybuilding. For me, that's what it was. To push myself in such a way so that when I achieved it, now I really have such a quiet confidence in myself that I can pretty much achieve anything that I set out to, because I've already done something so incredibly challenging and difficult. And I didn't have the support around me. Thank Christ I had the self-belief in myself. And that's the other tip I've got too, is you have to really accept maybe some people don't come along for the ride. Getting a rock solid mindset is so incredibly important. And you can see how all of these things link back together. It's not just like, go get a good mindset, go get a good coach, just go take all the steps, go get educated. Like, it's everything works together. It's like this enormous giant jigsaw puzzle that you need to do all of these things consistently and repetitively together to make sure that you get the success that you want. Another really important thing is that this is your race. It's your challenge, your goal. Do not compare yourself to others. It's so important that your success is based on how you feel about yourself and what you want to achieve. It's so often we look outwardly for other people to validate that we did a great job. And it's so incredibly important that actually we ask ourselves first, did we do a great job? Are we happy with our performance? Is this what we wanted? Is this what lights me up? It's not your job to impress other people. It's your job in your life to impress yourself and make yourself happy, and whatever it is that you value the most, that you are satisfying those things within yourself. So do not compare yourself. Don't go down that path. For me, it wasn't about winning a gold medal, even though I did win a gold medal, because I was the only person in my age group. But I knew I deserved that gold medal. For a moment, when I found out I was the only person on the stage, I was kind of like, I didn't even need to work as hard as I did, because, man, I sacrificed so much in those last few months. Spent a lot of money to get there. Like, it was a really big deal. And I just thought, no. It was only for a moment, because I wanted to compete, but it was only for a moment. I was kind of like, it doesn't matter, me, 20 people, gold medal, no gold medal, I damn well deserve to be up there. I deserve this success. I have achieved so much. Because I was looking inward, the things that I've benefited from and won in myself are incredible. The opportunities coming to me from this are incredible. It's just, my self-love just went through the roof. Like, my KPIs on this were so different to what I thought when I started. Originally, I was just looking for something to do as a challenge. And I was looking, I was actually looking outward when I set this challenge first. When I wanted to run a marathon. No, I want to do a body sculpting competition. It was like, my partner at the time used to joke. He said, "Oh, you're just doing it for the photos, Melissa." And I'd laugh, yeah, I'm just doing it for the photos. No, I just did it for so much more. The photos are a bonus because it just proves my success. But I did it for so much more, for me and my fulfillment and I won. It was such a wonderful experience, and I wish that for you too, when you are planning whatever it is that your goal is in your business or your personal life, that you look inwardly for your measurement and your KPIs of what you want to achieve, to make sure that's where your success is, what you want, not what you think other people want. I just read my notes. This is a beauty. Be prepared for challenges and curveballs, because this is what the universe does. I think I touched on this earlier. The universe will be constantly testing you. How much do you want this? And I don't know why this is a universal law, but I've heard it many times before, is that the universe never wants it to be too easy for you, because if it was too easy, everyone would be doing it. I had many challenges thrown at me, but this is where the lessons are learned. So like I said to you, I had this fantastic boyfriend that I was hanging out with all the time, but the challenge is that he was always getting in the way of my training and my discipline with my eating. And, I was partying too much, and we were in COVID and lockdown. There's nothing else to do, so I was just having a whole lot of fun. That was a challenge. Breaking my wrist, massive challenge. COVID, massive challenge. Getting COVID and I got really sick a couple of times from COVID, massive challenge. I think I mentioned before, when I was driving to Adelaide, finally I was going to get there and for the competition, my car broke down. I'm 3 days out from my competition. I'm 70 kilometres out of Hay, which is in the kind of literally in between Sydney and Adelaide, and my car broke down. It was but I managed to keep my composure, and I rallied. The NRMA guy was also the mechanic, and he managed to get the car piece that we needed, the alternator. He got that in the next morning. That was already in the town. Thank you, universe. The universe was looking out for me then. Fitted the car out, drove in, got to Adelaide, got to do it. My son said he was going to come and watch me, and then left it too late to book, and then the prices were just stupidly expensive, so then he didn't come. That massively challenged me. Like, so many challenges along the way, but do you let these things stop you and beat you, or do you become a bigger, better person and recognize them for what they are, step into your bigger shoes and just bloody do it anyway? Hopefully you choose the latter. But that's something that I wanted to point out. The correlation between my competition and your business is that you will be challenged along the way, but what are you made of? Will you rise to the challenge and just see it for what it is? Will you implode? Will you let your emotions get the better of you and you'll just sink back into your comfort zone and not try? Or will you go for it? Because the best things in life that you want to achieve, you have to go for. They're not just going to come to you easily. Otherwise, everyone would have whopping amounts of success and it would just be so easy. And that's not the point of life. The point of life is to grow and to expand. And you only grow and expand when you do shit that challenges you. This is another really good one, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this, particularly in relation to business, but it's what can you do that you just go that 1% more, that 2% more every time you train. When I trained, it'd be like, okay, I've got to do this amount of reps, okay, yeah, great. Can I just put a little bit more weight on the bar? Can I just do, instead of doing, 5 reps of this certain exercise, can I just do 6? Can I do just one more exercise that I never would have done? What can you do that's just that little bit more than you would have done the day before or the week before? And the same thing goes with business and achieving your goals. The way that it works, it's like a pendulum swimming. Whatever you swimming. When you have a 1% increase up here, when you look at the arc that it creates, when it's swinging like this, down here it's swinging, it could be a 20%, 30%, 40%, 100% increase for a little 1% increase at the top there, done in longevity over time. It's so important. And that's the way I looked at it with training, is that every time, Emma would say to me, every time I missed a training session, don't beat myself up. But she said, but it's an opportunity lost. It's gone forever now. So make the next one count more, or don't miss it and just keep it up. So it's so important. You can't take shortcuts, and every little bit counts, and go for the little improvements because they have the most impact over time. And my last tip that I think is the most important tip, which I have touched on, is the importance of when you are trying to achieve anything in your life of any magnitude, and you're putting yourself out there and you're doing it, and you're looking internally, not externally, for validation, is that you need to have whopping great self-belief, but is to love yourself in the whole process. And I really learnt that from my body sculpting competition. There were so many challenges, so much limiting belief, just putting on that bikini and going up and parading around in front of people And I thought it would be easy for me too, because I sing in a rock band and I speak on stages and I don't have any problems, creating content and putting it all together. But there's something very vulnerable about going up in a beauty pageant at my age, when all I can see is faults and things wrong with my body, because I'm a woman. So learning the self-belief, really understanding what triggers you, getting rock solid self-confidence, because not everybody's with you on this journey, and understanding what you're doing. And sometimes you're justifying to people what you're doing when you really don't need to be. Self-love gets you there every time. So I hope you have really enjoyed my little analogy between my body sculpting competition and whatever goals you have set for yourself in your life. How you do one thing is how you do everything, I swear to God. And it's so important that you become a master of yourself. Nobody is going to do this for you. You need to master your life, yourself, for you. I had a bit of a moment actually, and I remember watching it back when I watched back my diaries. If you haven't watched episode 1, 2 and 3 of my body sculpting competition and you find this interesting, go watch them, because I get really real and share a lot of other, longer versions of the stories in there. But I remember in the last week there's a couple of things I did, so stupid. But one thing that I did was I didn't like doing the glute exercises. I found hip thrusts, I always shortchanged myself on the hip thrusts. They were hard, they were uncomfortable, and I just doing 5 sets was enough for me. Actually I used to do 8 sets, and I think Emma used to want me to do 10, and I'd shortchange them. I knew I was doing that. And then in the last week leading up to it, I was looking so incredible. Like, she had me eating the carbs and my muscles started to fill out, and I just had this really tiny thin physique and just muscles showing, and I was so proud. But my legs were letting me down, my glutes were letting me down in comparison to the rest of my body. The upper half had developed really nicely, and the bottom half, everything, the legs were good, but it's just I could have had bigger, more formed leg muscles. That was a harder part of my body to put the muscle on. But I knew that sometimes I would shortchange the exercises, and there it was. No one was there chasing me at the gym saying, hey, did you do that properly? And nobody should be there. You should be accountable to yourself. So that was a really great life lesson for me. It's that if you want the results, so I didn't beat myself up. It was just like, you know what, if you want those results, if you really want to get high-end results, you've got to put in high-end effort, and no one's going to chase it for you. It's just you to do it. Yeah, so, and the other thing I did, which was so bizarre, is I didn't pay respect to the competition I was doing. There was one that I was doing evening wear, and I had to learn a routine for it, and we didn't have time to set one up because I've been doing so many other things with just learning the normal posing session, because that was so surprisingly difficult, learning how to pose for the body sculpting. So I had to learn how to I needed a routine, and I thought it would be just so easy. I disrespected it completely, and Emma showed me something to do the day before, basically, for my the formal wear outfit, and I spent that whole day and night cramming trying to learn how to do it, and felt very concerned about what it was going to be like when I got onto the stage, because I really hadn't perfected it. So I had not put in enough preparation at all. I hadn't respected the time or valued what was required. But to be quite honest, I just run out of time, and I had to balance my business as well. So I'm not going to completely beat myself up there. That's probably another tip too. Don't ever beat yourself up. Just do better next time. That's another tip. Yeah, so look, I could go on and on and on. It has been an absolute joy sharing this episode with you. I hope you have really gotten some value out of it. If you enjoyed it, please share it with people that you think that might enjoy this as well. Please like my channel. I'd really love that. Share it with people that you think would benefit from this. Make a comment and I'll chat back to you. If you're in my socials, please go follow me on my socials, Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn I'm on. And do check out my website as well, melissajscott.com. I have some really great online courses there if you wanted to work with me that way. I teach all about content creation. I teach all about having a rockstar personal brand. And in those, I talk a lot about self-confidence and self-belief, because you can't have one without the other. I have learnt from this process, and this has changed my whole business actually, is that I couldn't have gotten on that stage. Emma, I could have done all the training. I could have learnt everything that Emma had told me to learn. But if I hadn't have done the self-belief work and the personal development work of myself, I never would have made it. I never would have. I would have sabotaged it in some way. I believe the year before I did sabotage it. Like, COVID knocked me out of it anyway, but I broke my wrist. And I don't think I broke my wrist on purpose, but I think some element of the universe made that happen. And I think it was to challenge me and to reset me and say, look, girl, if you're going to do this seriously, or just don't do it at all. You know, go back to having fun. So if you want to work with me, I also do one-to-one coaching for personal branding and marketing and working on your self-belief and your confidence. And I have a confidence course coming out as well. So much love to you. Thank you for watching and playing along. I so appreciate it. And I'll see you next week with another episode of Connected and Confident.